This is not just a 25-cent piece, it is a window into the spirit of the bluegrass state, a coin minted in the heart of a new millennium that carries more than silver and copper. It carries the weight of American tradition, the pride of Kentucky's rolling hills, and the echoes of horse hooves racing through time. The 2001 Kentucky State Quarter is a masterpiece of symbolic storytelling, tucked inside your pocket change. And in this video, we peel back every layer of its rich history, from its creation in the U.S. Mint to the deep-rooted legacy it honors with the legendary Federal Hill Mansion that inspired Stephen Foster's "My Old Kentucky Home," the very song that became the heartbeat of the Kentucky Derby and the Commonwealth's cultural identity. We explore the economic conditions of 2001 when this quarter entered circulation amidst a changing America, in a time when analog was giving way to digital, and coins like these were becoming more than just currency, they were time capsules. Collectors sought them, everyday people spent them, but few stopped to understand what this quarter truly represents: its mintage numbers, the design process, the artist's background, the numismatic value today, whether in mint state condition or circulated, and the fascinating fluctuations of its worth in collector circles over the decades. We also dive into what makes this coin different from all others minted that year, from errors and die varieties to the specifics that can raise its value from 25 cents to several dollars, and sometimes more. And as we go deeper into the details, we take you through the entire journey of how this coin was proposed, approved, minted, distributed, and how it became part of a national campaign to teach history through pocket change. This is more than a history lesson. This is a story of state pride, of artistic expression, of American coinage evolution, and of hidden treasure in plain sight. So whether you are a seasoned collector, someone who just found this coin in your change jar, or a history buff hungry for lost stories, this 2-hour deep dive will give you a complete understanding of the 2001 Kentucky State Quarter like never before. Welcome to Old Quarter's dollar value, and prepare to look at your change with new eyes. For the year was 2001, and across America, people were still adjusting to a new century, a new millennium, and a rapidly evolving world of technology, culture, and national identity. But even as skyscrapers rose and digital devices crept into every home, one small piece of metal was quietly carrying the legacy of an entire state into the hands of millions. That piece was the 2001 Kentucky State Quarter, part of the now legendary 50 State Quarters program, a program that revolutionized modern American coinage and changed the way people saw the money they used every single day. While most quarters are spent, forgotten, and passed from hand to hand, the Kentucky Quarter stood out not only for its beauty, but for the deep cultural and historical narrative it carried within it. And in order to understand why this coin matters, we have to go back not to 2001, but to the very roots of Kentucky itself. Kentucky officially became the 15th state to join the Union in 1792, a land defined by fertile fields, limestone-rich soil, and a long-standing relationship with horses and the rural Southern spirit. It is the birthplace of bourbon, the cradle of bluegrass music, and the home of some of the most iconic landscapes in the American imagination. And when it came time for the U.S. Mint to design a quarter that would represent this storied land, there was no question about what imagery would be chosen. On the reverse side of the coin, the elegant silhouette of a thoroughbred horse stands proudly behind a wooden fence, gazing toward the Federal Hill Mansion, a Greek revival estate immortalized in Stephen Foster's 1853 song "My Old Kentucky Home," a melody that would go on to become Kentucky's official state song and an unofficial anthem for the Kentucky Derby. For more than a century, this house, located near Bardstown, Kentucky, has been a symbol of Southern tradition and hospitality, and the horse itself represents not only the state's identity, but its economic backbone, as Kentucky is globally renowned for its horse breeding and racing industry. The coin's design was created by artist T. James Farrell, whose work had to go through a long and meticulous selection process. As part of the 50 State Quarters program, the program itself had started just 2 years earlier in 1999 under the direction of the United States Mint, as a way to honor each of the 50 states in the order they joined the Union, and the goal was not only to stimulate interest in coin collecting but to educate the public about the unique history and contributions of every state. And it worked in ways nobody imagined. Coin collecting boom. Schools began using quarters in their history lessons, and the public became more engaged with numismatics than at any time since the mid-20th century. The Kentucky quarter was the final quarter released in 2001 following New York, North Carolina, Rhode Island, and Vermont. It was officially released to the public on October 15, 2001, and immediately began circulating across the country. Now let's talk about the mintage figures and the types of the Kentucky quarter. The coin was struck in 3 different United States mint facilities: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Philadelphia Mint struck over 353 million Kentucky quarters, while the Denver Mint produced over 370 million, and the San Francisco Mint, which focused on proof coins, made just over 3 million clad proofs and over 888,000 silver proof coins for collectors. In total, more than 726 million circulation strike coins were made, making the Kentucky quarter widely accessible. But as always in coin collecting, accessibility is not the only factor. Condition, strike, clarity, mint mark, and die varieties play an enormous role in the coin's long-term value in the numismatic market. No, while a circulated Kentucky quarter found in pocket change is still worth only face value, there are certain specimens that can command much more money, especially in high mint state condition with Ms. 67 or Ms. 68 grades. Examples: certified by PCGs or NGC in pristine condition have sold for $20 to $75, with some auction results reaching over $200 for top pop coins that are nearly flawless. And remember, these values fluctuate based on demand, rarity, and collector interest. But in the world of state quarters, there is always movement, especially when it comes to error coins. And that is where the Kentucky quarter story gets even more interesting. Among the most desirable Kentucky quarter errors are the off-center strikes, the broad strikes, the double dies, and die clashes. And there are even a few reported struck-through errors which occur when foreign material interferes during the minting process, resulting in wild irregularities on the coin's surface. One particular known example is a 2001p Kentucky quarter with a reverse die clash error that sold for well over $100 in a collector auction. And while these errors are rare, they are always worth watching out for, and that is part of the thrill for collectors and treasure hunters. But the Kentucky quarter is more than numbers and errors. It is a coin that encapsulates the mood of America in 2001, when the country was on the cusp of deep change following the September 11th attacks. The release of the Kentucky quarter came just 1 month later, and while that was not planned, it ended up being symbolic for many collectors who saw this coin and its depiction of peace, nature, and tradition as a reminder of the American values they held dear in a time of national grief and uncertainty. Coins are always reflections of the times in which they are made, and the Kentucky quarter was no exception. It carried a message of quiet resilience, a nod to simpler times, and a celebration of the unshakable American spirit rooted in the land and its history. We explore the full journey of how this quarter came to be, from its legislative roots to final production. The process began years before its release, when the Kentucky State Quarter Committee was formed to choose a design that represented the state's heritage. Multiple designs were considered, and Kentuckians were invited to submit ideas and vote on favorites. Finally, the chosen design, combining the horse, the fence, and federal hill, was approved by Governor Paul E. Patton and sent to the U.S. Mint for final refinement and engraving. The coins were struck on a standard clad planchet made of copper and nickel with a diameter of 24.26 millimeters and a weight of 5.67 grams. The coin's obverse retained the standard John Flanagan portrait of George Washington used in all state quarters, with the inscriptions "United States of America, Liberty, in God We Trust" and $quarter, along with the mint mark and the year 2001.